Okay, just before we begin, I'd like to say that the town is sending our gratitude and positive thoughts to the individuals, the family and friends of all who is touched by the events in Swastika this weekend. We'd like to commend the members of the public and emergency services who were involved in the heroic rescue in Swastika Sunday evening, and we're definitely going to keep you all in our thoughts. Okay, call to order the regular meeting of council electronically via Zoom for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. We'll have a moment of silence. Item number 2, approval of agenda.
By Eugene Ivanoff, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held on May 4th, 2021, beginning at 4:42 p.m., be approved as circulated to all members of council.
All in favor? Unanimous, approved. Item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest. Councillor Ivanoff, then Councillor Adams.
6.8 Heritage North, because I own a rental facility.
Councillor Adams.
6.8 Heritage North, employee of Kirkland Lake Gold, a member of the Kirkland Lake Curling Club.
Thank you, gentlemen. Duly noted. Item number 4, petitions and delegations. Zoning bylaw application extension request. Madam Clerk, can you unmute Mr. Roscoe?
Okay, we're here. We don't, do you have any questions? Or what? We're here to answer them anyway.
Oh, no, sorry, sir. Can you just identify yourself for public record?
Joe Roscoe, and I'm representing my daughter, Casey Roscoe, who's sitting beside me here.
Okay, are you going to speak to the matter at hand, or do you have the letter before you that you prefer to read to council and members of the public?
No, I'll answer any. I'm here to answer any questions that you council may have.
Okay, normally when we do a delegation, the presenters have a little something to say, but that's okay. Do any members of council have any questions before we read the motion? Councillor Adams?
So would we direct staff to look into this being possible? Because so far it's just worded for us to receive this document. So for us to get something back for them, if we were to direct staff to look into and provide feedback.
Okay. Madam Clerk, who's the mover and seconder on this motion?
The mover as Lad Shaba and the seconder as Patrick Adams. And if I could just add, so just to let everybody know, this topic is more than likely included in the discussion that's going to be part of 6.1 and 6.2. So Mr. Roscoe, if you'd like to basically speak at this time, because you will not be able to speak during the staff report section.
Okay. Well, what it is my daughter is looking to put a new cottage out at Nettie Lake. She has property which she's owned, and she's been going through this for quite a while, but with everything happening, it's been hard to get in touch with people, and things are slow with the COVID. She has everything in place except for the BCIN number, which they tell her she will have in approximately 2 weeks. So other than that, she has an approved septic, approved building plan, and approved site plan. So she's ready to go. As far as Nettie Lake, and I listened to it, she was working on this, not unaware of what was happening with the bylaws, and not that I disagree with the bylaws and the people that are doing them. And but one thing I did feel that there's all kinds of property owners out there, not just my daughter, that their septic systems may not be up to grade. And I think one thing missing in when you're doing the rezoning is maybe it should be that the current owners, because some people have been out there for a long time, they should have the opportunity to upgrade their current systems, because some of them may not meet what's being proposed in the future, or it's because of what I understand it's the study on the lake. Given that, I think each landowner should have the same opportunity as the ones that had the money and were able to afford to do it already. And I think it's only a benefit to the town as it is, because they would have upgraded systems at some point in time. So as long as I feel they meet the current permit obligations, I don't see why any person should be stopped from upgrading their septic system. So that's really what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Roscoe, for your opinions on this matter. Any further questions from council members before we read the motion? Councillor Owen.
Is there currently a septic system on the property that we're discussing?
Yes, there is.
And it doesn't meet today's standards, I assume, then? Or you're
No.
building a bigger cottage that would require a larger system?
The exact type of system, we don't know what's there.
Okay.
There is a system, and building a new cottage and new slightly better to put a new system.
So basically, then you're just replacing the system that's there. You're not adding a new system to the lake.
No new system, just replacing what's there.
Okay. Thank you.
No further questions or comments. Madam Clerk will have the reading of the motion.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that the delegation from Joe Roscoe on behalf of Casey Roscoe be received.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item number 5, acceptance of minutes and recommendations.
Moved by Rick Owen, seconded by Eugene Ivanov. Be it resolved that council approve the minutes of the following meetings. Minutes of the regular meeting of council held April 20th, 2021. Minutes of the public meeting held April 20th, 2021. And that council accept the minutes from the following committee meetings. Minutes of the police service board meeting held February 10th, 2021.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 6.1, zoning bylaw update. Jenna McNaughton, planning administrator, recycling coordinator, and data manager. That is a mouthful, Jenna. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council, I am here to talk about the zoning bylaw update. So as you are aware, we have been in the process of updating this zoning bylaw. As per the requirements under the Planning Act, we are required to pass a new zoning bylaw after 2 years of passing of the official plan. Although we did begin the process in 2017, it was put on hold due to staff turnover and added responsibilities. In 2019, staff prepared an RFP and it was awarded to J.L. Richards at the February 4th, 2020 council meeting for a contractual price of $21,962. Notice of the project commencement was posted on the municipal website June 12th. An open house was held on November 9th at Heritage North, 2 sessions from 1 to 3 and 1 from 6 to 8. All the comments that were provided during that open house were discussed between the consultant and staff, and some changes were made at that time. A public meeting was held, a public meeting was scheduled for March 23rd. However, it was rescheduled for April 20th. As per the requirements under the Planning Act, all the notice was provided, and there was additional notices posted in the newspaper when we did reschedule the meeting. The Planning Advisory Committee met April 8th and made some recommendations. And then we had our public meeting 2 weeks ago on April 20th, and council directed staff to make some amendments to the change or to the proposed bylaw based on the recommendations from the Planning Advisory Committee and some comments received. So we have made, the consultants, JL Richards, have completed all the requested changes and have provided the final bylaw for adoption. Once this bylaw is adopted, it will come into effect the day that it is passed. There is a 20-day appeal period that does transpire. However, once that 20-day appeal period is over, the bylaw is in effect the day it was passed. So if it's passed today, it would be May 4th. So I'm just going to do this in two sections. So one, we are just requesting that the bylaw be adopted because all of the changes were in effect or made. The second is in regards to building permit applications that staff are in the process of dealing with. So since we had that public meeting, we have been in correspondence with some residents at Nettie Lake who are in the process of either upgrading their cottage or perhaps tearing one down and putting another one up. All of the properties, all the property owners we have been in discussion with do have an existing cottage and an existing septic system. As it sits, there is an application or two that may not technically meet the requirements of a completed application at this time, as there may be some items missing. So based on the building code, a completed application is defined as an approved site plan, a completed building permit application, final drawings, and septic approval from the health unit. Once all of that paperwork's required, we pass that along to the CBO, and then their time frame starts for reviewing the application. So we do consistently follow this process. And we typically do process the applications based on the bylaw at the time. So our concerns right now are do we continue processing the applications as is, or should they be processed under the new bylaw? Basically, we are asking that any application that staff have deemed complete would continue to process under that current regime of the old bylaw. Any applications that we receive after the bylaw is passed, so if it's passed today, any applications we received effective tomorrow will be under the new bylaw. I'm definitely happy and willing to take some questions. I'm sure there's a couple on the table, so I'm willing to entertain them.
Thank you. Councillor Ivanoff had his hand up before I even said any comments or questions, so please go ahead. Then Councillor Owen.
Jenna, the Roscoe's, have they got an application in? I'm not sure how we're dealing with this. They're asking for an extension.
Yes, through your worship to council. At this time, it hasn't been deemed a complete application, but they have been in the process of progressing, and they've made substantial work over the last week and a half trying to get everything done. So they are in the process. However, it hasn't been deemed a complete application at this time today.
Thank you.
Councillor Owen.
Yeah, through you, your worship, to Jenna. If I had a property on Nettie Lake and the health unit said I had to put in a new septic tank, would I have to do a lake capacity study to bring my septic tank up to the health unit standards?
Okay, through your worship to council, the requirements under the new bylaw state that anything in that RR01 zone would not be permitted to do development if septic approval is required. So what triggers that is an addition of 15% or more to your structure, or if it is an addition of any fixtures such as taps, toilets, showers, floor drains. So if the health unit said you need to upgrade your system, you'd be permitted to do that, as it is something that's required. So you can do that without going through any additional studies. And just to mention as well that you wouldn't have to do those studies if you were constructing an accessory unit such as a garage.
Okay, so it's been a long time since I've gone through a septic approval system. So it's only if you enlarge by 15%, add bathrooms, add showers, kitchen sinks, whatever. In the case of the Roscoe property, are they building a bigger cottage than is currently there?
Through you to council, it is a process that they are in. So I believe the project is to construct a new cottage.
But is it 15% larger than the old cottage? Does it have more bathrooms than the old cottage?
It would be an entirely new structure.
I know that, but what I'm getting at is if they kept the old cottage, and from what Mr. Roscoe has said, he doesn't know what's under the ground. So chances are it probably does not meet the current standards. So if they're building a cottage that doesn't have more bathrooms, isn't 15% larger, then in effect, they're just replacing a septic system that was already there, but not up to current standards. That's why I'm asking for details. And I know I put you on the spot, but to me, there's a difference, because if you're building a new cottage and it is 15% bigger and it does have more bathrooms, well, then you got to replace that septic system, even if, or enlarge it at least, even if it isn't. In which case, a lake impact study might be wise. But if you're just building the same size structure but modern, what's the difference between that and the health unit telling me at my cottage that my system doesn't meet current standards and I have to replace it?
Okay, so through you, your worship, to council, I'll see if I can answer your question. It is something that the building code is triggering that septic approval. So if you are completely taking a structure away and putting a new one up, that's where your septic approval comes in. If it is desirous of council to make a change to that area, that is up to you guys. However, at this time, it is something that the building code is saying would trigger your septic. It's not actually your septic from the health unit. The health unit will come in and allow you to put in a new septic bed, and that does not have to do with the zoning bylaw. So you would be required to do a zoning bylaw amendment if you're proposing development.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand.
I hope that
I'm still mulling it over, but I think I've got your point. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Any further comments or questions? Oh, sorry, Wilfred Haas, please.
Sorry, thank you through your worship to council. Ms. Roscoe's situation is one situation. As Jenna was pointing out, we're also looking for a policy direction or a policy decision. The more general question, do we, under which regime or legislative regime do we judge the applications that we have received? And as Ms. McNaughton pointed out, we try to make it as forthcoming to the client as we can. Everybody's treated the same. Here's what you need to do. And we always go back to them and say, okay, here's your deficiencies, whatever else in your application process. Clients in general are very, very good about that. But if we go forward, we do need to establish, is there a cutoff date after which we go to the new regime? the new zoning bylaw, or remain with the past. And we like to have a very specific cutoff date in that recommendation. That closes the door, makes it clear to everybody, and it prevents any kind of speculative applications. Well, I'm giving you a letter, I'm going to do something, but no, I just got in through the door. That's one of the things that we want to address with this. And in this context, again, what the Roscoes have brought forward, it is one of these cases. It's not the only one. There's more with that. I don't know if I'm actually helping, but for us, it's very important for the policy decision. I'm rambling enough. I'll stop.
Okay, Councillor Owens hasn't spoken to this issue, so I'll let him go first. And Councillor Ivanoff, if you still want to continue, you're up second.
I think, in my opinion, right now, whatever was received before 5:02 p.m. and whatever seconds we're at right now counts under the old regime. You got your letter and you got your intent and you started the process. You fall under that category. Whatever comes in as of 8 o'clock tomorrow morning or whenever we pass this bylaw, then you know what? You've had fair warning. It's been on the radio. It's been in the media, whatever. It falls onto the new regime, and then you have to satisfy those criteria. So I think that'd be the best way of doing it. We have to be fair to the the process is changing in between, but these guys have started it before, so they should be entitled to keep going on the rules as they were set before. I don't know if that helps for clarity.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Ivanoff.
I feel the same way. I think that the Roscoes should be under the old. Had they applied 2 weeks ago, we would have. I think we just would have given the exemption at that time. I know they're struggling right now to get, and I understand with COVID and with staff at the town, it's a little more difficult right now. I would hope that we would be fair with them as we did with a few of the exceptions we made 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Councillor Owen. Nope.
There. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep my grandkids' noise out of the background for council meetings, so. Yeah, I also agree, and it also gives clarity to the staff. But initially, I thought there was just, until I read my agenda, I thought there was just the one issue, but there's several. And I think what Councillor Owens has suggested is fair. And after this meeting, or after we pass the bylaw, we're under the new thing. And that way staff, there's no argument, it's cut and dried. It came from council. You can blame us. We did it. And you're free and clear. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions from council?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, lad, go, Councillor Shaba,
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I also agree with Councillor Owens as to just allow people that have their applications in process to process that through the old. But I'm not too, I'm uncomfortable with the timeline. So saying right away, maybe we should give people a week or two that, so anybody's out there will, I guess, get things together. If not, one way or the other, we're going to have stampede. People are going to rush to beat the deadline. Maybe we should just set the deadline to be realistic, give everybody a week or two. So after a week or two, the new policy would kick in as opposed to saying tomorrow morning. So that's it for me.
Councillor Owen.
I just want to say that we met all our legal requirements in terms of advertising, publishing, and letting the public know that the bylaw was being reviewed. It certainly had more than enough publicity, as well as being covered by the media in a non-paid form of advertising. I think people have had more than ample opportunity, and I think after we pass the bylaw tonight, it's the new rules. If we allow a couple weeks, then we're just asking for trouble, because then people are going to throw things together and slip them into Miss McNaughton before the deadline, and it's going to be, it's not going to be fair to staff. They're going to get a lot of less than professional applications, is a nice way of saying it. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments or questions? All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the motion?
Through you, acting mayor to council, I just need to clarify a little bit because it seems that the discussion is conflicting one another, because when you're saying you agree, I'm hearing that you're agreeing to only completed applications, but then somebody was saying any application submitted. So I just want to make sure that you know the recommended motion in front of you would mean only completed applications to this day, which does not include the Roscoe's and anyone else that's incomplete. So from the recommended motion in front of you, the only thing that I've changed right now is to add in, so the part that says staff be directed to process completed building permit applications, I'm just changing it to say as defined in the building code instead of below, so that the motion just has it there, and say by May 4th, which is today, since we are planning to pass the bylaw later in this meeting. So I'll read out loud the whole motion so that you can see what it said, but I just wanted to make that clear for everybody.
Okay, sorry, Madam Clerk. Then perhaps could you let us know who was the first and seconder on this motion? Because it was pretty clear through discussion that changes should be made to the wording.
So I have it moved by Eugene Ivanoff and seconded by Patrick Adams. So I was just getting confused. You're wanting it to be any application submitted, even if it's not complete?
I believe Eugene will speak to that.
That are in process. I believe that's right. So anything that's already in process, anything after this date, if they haven't started the process, will fall under the new rules.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, just one moment, please. Okay. So moved by Eugene Ivanoff, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that report number 2021-dev-017 entitled Zoning Bylaw Update be received. That staff be directed to present the zoning bylaw for adoption and provide all necessary notices as required by the Planning Act. And that staff be directed to process any submitted applications by May 4th under the existing bylaw and any new applications after May 4th under the new bylaw.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.2. Request to widen portion of road along Sandy Drive. Again, Jenna McNaughton, Planning Administrator, Recycling Coordinator, Data Manager.
All right. Thank you again, Your Worship. Through you to council, we did receive a request to widen a portion of Sandy Drive. So this is a road around Nettie Lake. So the request was received, and it was initially requested through the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry that they reached out to the municipality for comment. When we actually reviewed the area, it was identified a portion of road is the municipalities. We did note that the roadway could be widened within that allotted 20 meters that's allocated and placed on the subdivision plan. Within that subdivision agreement, it does note that the subdivision agreement for Nettie Lake, that the town of Kirkland Lake advises they will not maintain the road extending from Airport Road to any of the subject properties or any of the internal roadways. In order to proceed with something like this, staff are recommending that the applicants provide a scope of work, proof of insurance, comments from neighboring property owners, and the signed work agreement, we have provided an example of what this is, and it's an indemnity and hold harmless agreement. As per Article 4 of the agreement, the contractor and any subcontractors would have to provide proof of insurance policies with the same coverage and stipulations. Staff haven't received any other requests prior to this application to widen the road. Pulling from their letter of request, it is reasonable to assume that a wider road will benefit other residents and the area, and also enhance the road safety. So at this time, they did also mention that there was a small amount of trees that they would like to take and to help offset the cost. So there was an approximate value of $500 of the trees that were along that roadside. So they are requesting that they be able to harvest that to offset the cost of widening the road. And I think I got all of it. So I can take any questions if there are any.
Councillor Ivanov?
No, I think it's a great idea. I think if you can widen the road and enhance the property out there, I think, and it's not at a huge expense for our town. It's $500 in trees. That's a great investment. Thank you.
Councillor Owen?
Yeah, through you, your worship, to Ms. McNaughton. If I did my reading correctly, part of this road is on Kirkland Lake land, which means why don't we just sell them the land and then they can do what they want with it?
Through your worship to council, the road is actually a designated roadway in the subdivision agreement. So by eliminating that portion and selling it to somebody, we would be eliminating that use of the road to any other resident.
But it's been open how many years now? So I believe it's recognized by law as a common thoroughfare. And so I don't think that will come into play.
Through you, your worship to council, that is definitely something that would need to be interpreted through a solicitor, I would imagine. The Road Access Act is definitely a tricky one. And I would just recommend that we continue leaving that portion of road within the subdivision.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Owens?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. McNaughton on this one. I think we're better off to leave the road in public hands for, it'll make for less of a headache down the road 10, 20 years if new neighbors buy it or something and creates issues where there shouldn't or no need to be one. So I'd be more in favor to leave it as it is, how it is.
So, Jenna, I recognize myself. The confusion part for me is the request came in as if you could please provide us with the necessary comments to submit our application, it would be greatly appreciated. And what we have before us is an agreement. So how did that come about from a request that the municipality provide a comment to an agreement to get the work done?
Okay, thank you. So basically what happened was when we sat down and looked at the entire project, a portion of road that they were asking to widen was on the municipality's area. So we thought that kind of asking for the comments and making the recommendation that they be permitted to do that kind of worked as one full report instead of having to come back a second time and ask for permission for them to do the work on the municipal area as well.
Absolutely, thank you. Councillor Owen?
Now, if we get permission for this work to be done, is there any liability that can come back on the town in terms of if there's a car accident there 5 years from now or whatever? I know there's a fancy agreement there for the construction of the road, and that's why I had suggested selling the property that we own to get rid of any potential liability. And I'm just curious as to whether we've had a legal opinion on that what's our potential liability down the road?
Through you, your worship, to council, this indemnity and hold harmless agreement was drafted and reviewed through our legal firm that we use. So it was drafted on a different matter, but it is something that we typically ask any contractor that's conducting work on municipal lands. And like I said, it was reviewed by our legal people.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Owen.
But my concern is not during the construction project, which I read that agreement to be covering. My concern is somebody gets killed on that road 5 years from now and we gave them permission and they get a lawyer and the lawyer says, well, the road wasn't properly constructed and the town gave them permission to build it this way. Are we liable?
Okay, I believe Wilfred Haas has
Thank you.
more expertise.
No, not expertise, but we have run into it before. Through you, your worship, the road as it is now, and Ms. McNaughton can correct me, right now, it is not official road. You already have that liability right now. Okay, we do not maintain it. It's there. If somebody gets into an accident, it is exactly the same situation if they get into an accident 6 months from now. To the greater part of your question, you know, what happens when people make changes to these roads on municipal land, that falls back under the whole thing we had talked about with the forestry too, where people are making trails and doing this. Perhaps if we are going down this route in the future, more so, perhaps it would be worthwhile getting a legal opinion on a blanket statement as opposed to only this, because we will see other activity like that where we will run into town property where roads will be crossing. At least then we do have a reference stone that we can point back to and guide us in our decisions.
Thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Owen.
And just to clarify, I'm not against the road widening, but I feel it's important to ask these questions to protect all the ratepayers at Kirkland Lake. To me, it seems like a no-brainer if we got somebody who wants to do it. And it's not going to cost the ratepayers anything. And it's going to make that road safer. But like I say, I'm still concerned about long-term liability. And I think that, well, not a pressing issue probably for this council right now. I think it's something that needs to be looked into down the road, as Mr. Haas has suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All right, Madam Clerk, you can read the motion.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor White. I just need to clarify if Councillor Shaba is current, as he is the seconder on here. He has turned off his video, so.
Oh, he's missing.
I'm here.
Thank you, Councillor Shaba. If you could please keep your video on for the meeting so it helps to know who's current.
Oh, I usually preserve my battery in my iPad here. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm listening. I'm here.
Recommended motion is moved by Rick Owen, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that report number 2021-dev-018 entitled Request to Widen a Portion of Road Along Sandy Drive be received, and that staff be directed to enter into an indemnity and hold harmless agreement with the contractor Roscoe Logging and Lumber for conducting work on municipal property.
All in favor?
Yep.
Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.3, verbal COVID-19 update. Bonnie Sackrider, Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Council. As we are now in the 5th week of the province-wide shutdown, we want to remind residents of the importance of following all restrictions that are in place, including the stay-at-home order, and the significance of masking, distancing, and hand washing when involved in essential activities such as groceries or medical care. The corporation has recently updated their safety plan, which now includes steps to improve ventilation. As well, staff have shifted from cloth masks to medical grade masks and approved eye protection whenever working within 2 meters from each other. All departments are operating virtually as much as possible, and contactless transfer of items is used where permissible. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank all staff members involved in ensuring municipal business can still occur with COVID restrictions in place, as well as those staff responsible for the enhanced cleaning of areas that essential workers are required to attend to. Thank you to all our healthcare workers, our emergency response workers, and our frontline workers who are not able to work from home. Everyone's vigilance is noticed, and we are doing everything we can to stay safe. This concludes the COVID update for this week.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you can go ahead and read the motion.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that the verbal COVID-19 update be received.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.4, user fee reduction request. Again, Bonnie Sackrider, Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council. You have in front of you a report along with a letter from Director of Corporate Services from the Timiskaming Health Unit, Randy Winters. So the Timiskaming Health Unit has been utilizing Heritage North since March for the vaccination clinics that they are offering. After receiving our first couple of bills to them, they have requested a reduction in fees. They are using Heritage North a number of times. Their request has been that it's more in line with what they are receiving from other municipalities, which is around that $1,000 a month. In other municipalities, they are using arenas. They are using halls. So it is different in depending on where they are operating out of. So Heritage North is definitely a premier building. It's very accessible. It's great. It's working very well for this reason. However, we want to be a good community partner, and we wanted to see if there was anything we could offer. So we've done a little chart in our report. So it shows you what the difference is based on what their request is, what a regular rate is. They would be eligible for the reduction of a nonprofit. So what that rate would be. And then what I attempted to do was to find another rate that is in the bylaw approved rates that you've already looked at to see if there was something that was perhaps more along the lines of what they were looking for. So one of the rates that we found was the $254.46 rate. And that would be for a nonprofit group to be able to use the arena floor or the pavilion at Civic or things like that. Staff do feel that it may make a bit more sense to charge per use, because in the months where there's more use, we have been turning away some of our more essential users because we aren't able to offer some of the mines and some of the health and safety type groups space when there's a vaccination clinic going on. So we thought that perhaps on the months that there are more use, we would like to see a per use rate. So there's a few examples there. These do not include any taxes, and they do not include any cleaning fees. So our typical cleaning fee is about $50 for the hour of cleaning. It takes us about 2 hours after a clinic to clean. At this point, we aren't incurring any additional costs for cleaning. We are able to reallocate our cleaners because our buildings aren't getting quite the same use right now as when they are open. So we can do it without any additional fee. Once all of our buildings do reopen, we may incur some overtime charges for cleaners. We just don't know yet what the use is going to be. So at this point, the recommendation is for the $254.46 per clinic.
Excellent. Thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Yes, Councillor Adams.
Yeah, I get it. That's a request for reduction, but I just think sometimes for Meta Air, what we charge them for landing compared to any other landing, like when it's the government paying, it seems to be all in. And that's exactly what we do at the airport. I know it's times like this, but like we're losing revenue, and if we can make a fair deal, I'm okay. But we do it to Meta Air, and
Councillor Owens.
Have they looked at, like, I know Heritage is a premier center or whatever, accessibility, but have they looked at using the arena floor? Like, I mean, at one point over the summer, things might change or whatever, depending on what happens later on tonight. Circumstances are going to change come July, maybe. So they might have to find a new location. So what's wrong with them using the complex for this?
So the complex is available for their use as of now, if they would like it. Their preference is Heritage North, and it's mostly because of accessibility. So if you drive into, the only way to get onto the arena floor without having to use stairs would be through our Olympia access doors, and it's very sandy environment back there. So if you have any mobility concerns, either you're doing flights of stairs or you're doing uneven flooring or surfacing. So not as ideal, but it is there. And once the mass clinics come of the, I guess, younger crowd, they said that they certainly would consider using the arena.
Well, if they're going to have to consider, well, okay, thank you.
Councillor Owen.
Yeah, I feel very strongly on this. We have rates. They are set for everybody. They were set based on our cost of operations, our overhead. They weren't just numbers picked out of the air. The health unit doesn't give us a discount because we don't have much money. We pay our per capita tax to the health unit for the services they provide. I've got to stand up for all the ratepayers at Kirkland Lake, and that's our user fee. And if the health unit wants to use it, that's what they pay. What they pay in other communities has nothing to do with what we charge in Kirkland Lake. And my personal feeling is that the health unit is much more likely to get additional COVID funding than the municipality, because they are a health unit. And that, you know, I had my vaccination there. It's a well-run thing. When I was there, it seemed a bit overstaffed. But, you know, that's just my observation. I'm not in favor of reducing the rate. No matter how noble the cause is. We have to look after our ratepayers. Thank you.
Councillor Owens.
Just a reminder that part of the budget of THU comes from Kirkland Lake taxpayers. So no matter what, your taxpayers are still going to be on the hook down the road. It's just a vicious circle. So whether they get it, yeah, we pay for it anyway.
I have the question.
Yes, go ahead, lad.
Okay, I don't know if, can you see I raised my hand. Can you see it?
You raise the other hand, it's better because the one hand's off camera, the one hand's on. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Councillor Shaba.
Oh, you're doing a fine job. Listen, I don't really mind this rate reduction, but the problem that I have is that if you're going to do it for one, you should be ready to do it for others that may come. So if we're willing to do it for others, I don't know what those others will be, then I'm for it. But if you're only going to do it for the health unit and say, well, if other people come around and say, well, I want to use the hockey Heritage North, can I get a reduction in rate? No, you cannot, because you're not a health unit. So that is what my problem lies. But I mean, if you want to go for it, if it's going to be for the health unit, well, let's be for everybody for now, at least during the pandemic period. When the pandemic period is over with, then we can say, well, the rates will go up to whatever the rates are supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I believe Ms. Sackrider was pretty clear that this 25446 did come from non-for-profits. So she did kind of do her homework on this and picked a rate that would be used for other user groups as well. So I think the reduced rate, like Councillor Owen said, we end up paying for it in the long run anyway. So I would support this motion, but of course it goes to the first and seconder. Madam Clerk, could you please let us know who first and second this motion?
I have the mover as Patrick Adams and seconded by Rick Owen. So Councillor Adams, please advise if you wish to put to vote the current motion or to amend the motion.
I would like to put forward the current motion. If this building sells tonight, the next owner could just jack up the prices anyways if it's not making money. So Yeah, let's give them that reduction for now and see what happens.
Yes, Councillor Owen.
Can I have a recorded vote on this, please?
Okay. So the motion is moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that report number 2021-CS-008 entitled Reduction in User Fees for COVID-19 Vaccination Clinics be received, and that staff be directed to charge a reduced rate of $254.46 per clinic for the COVID-19 vaccination clinics held at Heritage North in 2021. And we have a recorded vote requested by Councillor Owen, and so we will start with Councillor Adams.
Yay.
Councillor Ivanov.
It's a yay.
Councillor Owen.
Nay.
Councillor Owens.
Yay.
Councillor Shava.
Yes.
And Acting Mayor White.
Yay.
5-1.
Thank you. Motion's passed. Item number 6.5, potential grant application. Again, Ms. Bonnie Sackrider, Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Council. So there's 2 grant opportunities that the municipality has, and I've outlined what each of them are and some of the potentials. So the first one is a fairly substantial one. It is from Infrastructure Canada. It's brand new out, and it's called the Green and Inclusive Communities Building Fund. What they're really looking for here is renovations to the facilities that meet the criteria that are going to become a minimum of 25% more energy efficient. It does have to be a publicly accessible building owned by the municipality, accessible to the public, non-commercial offering. So there's a number of different key ideas that I've tried to summarize the main points for you. It is over a few years, so the retrofits can take place up until the end of March 2026. This is an 80-20% split for this grant. So it's 80% of the project, of the total cost of the project, is funded through the grant, through Infrastructure Canada, and 20% would be funded through the municipality. The municipality would be able to look for provincial dollars for their share of the funding, although there's no guarantee, and the municipality is able to spread out their share up until the end of March 2026. What I've done, we did talk about this at Senior Management Committee, and we talked about what are the different opportunities that fit the criteria within the corporation. So it's fairly narrow. What we did come up with was we have had a building condition assessment completed for the Joe Mavernack Community Complex a few years ago that was paid for through government funding. And you've seen this document before or something very close to it. So this is basically what the consultants are letting us know would be our best practices for replacing things, an approximate cost. This is a Class C estimate, but it's no better than Class C, and it is from a couple of years ago. So there's definitely no escalation built into these numbers. I just wanted to give you what we have right now. So we've got a number of mechanical, plumbing, heating, ventilation, electrical, and base building upgrades that the consultants have recommended that council look at over the next 5 to 10 years. They've classified them as currently critical, potentially critical, necessary. We have surpassed what they recommend for replacement in almost everything. And I did ask the question, so how do you come up with a year if we're surpassing everything? Because it does make it difficult. They basically said that in buildings such as municipal buildings, you typically have fairly high levels of maintenance and standards, and that's why the building tends to age very well. So that's why typically buildings such as this that are maintained by a maintenance team do tend to have longer longevity than something that may not be. So that's why we have certainly exceeded some of the approximate useful life. What else can I tell you about that one? It's an option. So there's not a lot of buildings that fit the criteria, but this is one. But there certainly is a municipal component. So that's something that would have to be looked at. What I did was if you look at the bottom of that chart, this project right now has about $2.98 million in the total project cost. What would that portion be for the municipality? Be almost $600,000. So that is significant. If it's spread out over the 2022 to the 2026 years, it's about $120,000 you'd be looking at to fund a year, either out of the levy or by applying for provincial funding, because you can stack this federal funding with provincial funding. So that's one opportunity. The second opportunity is not quite as extravagant. It is called the Community Foundations of Canada Healthy Communities Initiative. And it is basically to adapt public spaces and programming to respond to the ongoing needs of COVID. So they are looking for open spaces and what you can do in these areas. Again, we talked about this at the senior management level, trying to determine what are all the opportunities within the corporation that fit into the criteria. And it's fairly small what you can really fit in. There are a couple of options. So the lighting at Kinross that was brought up before would fit in this grant. And then the other option that we've brought forth is trails and enhancing the trail system. So in terms of lighting at Kinross, we did get some kind of ballpark figures, and we're probably looking at, depending on the exact style of light that you'd be looking at, if we were to do a solar light at Kinross based on the luminaires and how many lights you need around the park, depending on the height of the pole. So we've done lots of research on it. You're probably looking at somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 or $120,000 for the pole and the solar light. So there's no electrical that we have to run. We don't have to dig underground to put the wiring in. That does not include installation. So staff, it's possible that our staff could do that installation, but it's then their time. So that's a fairly big project. Does it fit this criteria? It probably would. The next step we did was we did talk to our local law enforcement just to see if they had any concerns. And they did have some very interesting information that I shared with you. So they do not recommend lighting an area such as Kinross Park. And the reason why, they said it does not follow the concept of crime prevention through environmental design. What they explained is if you do light an area that has some secluded areas, people tend to feel that it's safe. So then they use the area at a time that maybe it's a little later and they may become a victim. The other concern that they had was a lit area when there's a lot of trees around it, and they were specifically talking the back half of the park. So not the part that's close to the McDonald's and Tim Hortons, that's nice and open, but they worried about the fact that it's almost now an open invitation for either illegal drug use or for underage drinking. So that was the concerns. I do share some of those concerns from recreational space. We do see that often in some of our recreational space. So it is an option. Just wanted to provide you with the information we received as well. That is 100% funding, this fund. The threshold is up to $250,000. However, I don't think we'd want to go that high because there is a maximum amount, and I haven't been able to find that, but there is a maximum amount allocated just for Northern Ontario. So if too many people apply, you use up that maximum amount. So I think we would be more successful to have a smaller ask in. So there are a couple of different options there. I did include some backup material for you if you were interested in looking at it. So we do see the trails plan, because that is another option that our staff have spoken a lot about, and a lot of residents have asked us to enhance trail systems. So we know that walking is one of the best forms of exercise, and we have spent, it was 2008, a long time ago, we did a very comprehensive trails plan. That was kind of the reason I put it in here as well, because you may not have been as familiar with this. There are more parts to it that includes mapping, but if anyone's interested, let me know. I'll share that with you. So we wouldn't be looking at this point, anything extravagant. We would be looking at where are there naturally occurring trails throughout Kirkland Lake, such as the Ricks trails, those types of things, that we could bring the standard up, that we could actually sign it and officially recognize it as a trail. So along the Queen Street area, there's some nice power lines that go back behind the ski trails that we could connect right out to Kinross. So there's a number, we haven't done all the research yet. I wanted to bring this to you to see if it was even something that was on your radar that you'd like us to investigate. But if we did go down the trail route, we probably could really bring up some more walking areas to attach parts of our town together for not a significant amounts of dollars. We have walked with the engineering and planning department a number of years ago. We did do a walk to see what are the risks, and really all it is lips and some areas where we need to put some fill in and some signage. So we want to make sure if we promoted something as a walking area, it's safe and we aren't incurring more liability. So 2 different funding pots and a couple of different options for you.
Thank you so much. Any comments, questions? Councillor Ivanov?
Yeah, no, I fully support your trail project. I think whatever funding you can get for something like that's a great idea. As far as the applying to the feds to get some money to fix up, I think that's great. 80% funding is great. If we get some money from the province, that's even, that'd be a bonus. I know that you're always, Ms. Sackrider, looking for funding opportunities, and I think you've done a great job with this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Owen?
Yeah, I love trails, but I don't think this is the right time for us to add to our infrastructure. We have infrastructure in this town that we are not maintaining properly. We can't afford to maintain. I'm a walker. I don't need a trail to walk. I walk for my mental health. It's a form of therapy for many people who have addictions or mental health. If I want to go out in the bush, there's lots of places I can go out in the bush and walk on a trail. Once 100% funding is extremely attractive, but we have to remember that there are costs in maintaining trails that go on forever and ever and ever. And I don't think we're at a place in time where we're trying to bring our services back in line with what a normal community of 8,000 people have. We have to get a new fire hall. We have an $8 million sewage line coming in from Swastika, and the 2 tenders came in, they were above $9 million. We have repairs that need to be done to the work garage. We have sewer and water lines that are 85 years old and need replaced. We have roads that are in terrible, terrible condition. I just don't see. I'm all in favor of walking trails, and I've seen communities use it very well. And when we had a cottage in Severn Township, they had a wonderful trail system that went right through the city of Aurelia, and it was the old rail line, and I used it on a regular basis. But from our financial position, I just can't see that at this time. In terms of the improvements to the arena, to the complex, yeah, we need to make them. I think we should highly prioritize them to bring that total down, because we still have to pay that 20% portion, and that would either have to be borrowed or come out of the levy. So that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, Councillor Shaba, I see your hand. Thank you, sir.
Okay, got it. Well, I'm not in favor of extending the trails. What I'm in favor is to really enhance the existing trails that we have now. That's why the proposal for lighting was put into motion last time. So let's enhance what we have. And I do believe that we have a bylaw that stipulates that people cannot congregate after 10 p.m. in parks and whatnot. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but I believe there is one. So even if we have lighting, say in Kinross, so I mean that could be turned off, say at that particular time, 9:30 to 10 o'clock. So the reason why the lighting was actually proposed was the fact that we all live up north here, and during some times of the year, 4 or 5:30, 4 or 4:30, it's pitch dark. People think it's like 10 or 11 o'clock. So we're hoping that at least whatever we have now, which is cameras, we enhance that by having lighting, and that could be turned off 9:30, 10 o'clock, because there's a bylaw that states that I believe people cannot congregate past that in municipal parks or whatnot. So, someone can correct me by that. Maybe I got it wrong, but that's my understanding of that bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more comments or questions from council? Okay, Madam Clerk.
I do have the mover as Lad Shaba and the seconder as Eugene Ivanov. Is there amendments to it, Lad, that you would like, or just the recommendation as is?
Sorry, Councillor Shapa, you're on mute.
Yeah, can you read that? I'm trying to look it out on my laptop here. Can you read the motion?
The recommendation is be it resolved that report number 2021-CS-009 entitled Upcoming Grant Opportunities be received, and that staff be directed to apply to the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund for community complex retrofits and the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative for walking trails. Does leave it fairly open. I was thinking, based on your comments, Councillor Shaba, maybe you would want it to say initiative to enhance.
That's correct. Existing trails. Yes, that's what I like to see on how they do that. I leave it up to the staff. So, it doesn't have to be lighting to enhance the existing trails, but whatever it is that they feel will enhance the existing trail. But I'm not pretty much, I agree with Rick in this one. We shouldn't really be extending our trails and then let the ones that we have just go dilapidated. Yeah, I'm happy with that. If that's something that they will bring back to us as to how what the initiatives are for walking trails, what they're trying to do to enhance those trails that we currently have.
Sorry, Ms. Sackrider, what is the cutoff date for that second stream of funding? Is it something that we could get a little bit more information from your department about trail maintenance, ongoing trail maintenance, after we've used that grant to provide updates to those trail systems, the existing trail system? Do we have time to get information such as that?
I believe so. I think I would have to bring it back to the next meeting. I believe this opens the second week of May, and probably closes a few weeks after that. So I believe I would have time to bring something back to the next meeting of council, but not much after that.
Okay, Councillor Owen?
Yeah, if I could request, I would request, since we're talking two separate grants here, that motion be split into two, and we take votes on each one individually. The other question I have is, prior to these grants being applied for, would that come back to council to see exactly what we're applying for? What projects we're applying, like the specifics of the projects that we're applying for?
From my perspective, the more information you could give me now in terms of what you would like to see, the better. I can bring it back. My concern is sometimes with tight turnaround. So the first grant, which is the larger one, it is a continuous intake, and it is, they dole out the money as the grants come in until the money's gone. So I wouldn't want to stretch that process out too long.
Okay.
But if we cut it down to just applying for all the Ps, which is poor, just to make myself clear, because I'm concerned about the amount we're going to have to throw in on it, like from the ratepayers, if we go for the full amount. Because I would think they're worse than the Fs, which is fair. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense from an operational point of view. I really don't. I'm just looking at the rating, because I am concerned about that total number. It's I don't want to pass up on 80% funding neither, but I think we have to keep it very realistic. in terms of what we're going to have to, what the ratepayers are going to have to put in.
Councillor Shaba as, okay, sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Councillor
I'm still here.
Ivanov. Sorry,
sorry.
Councillor Ivanov.
My only concern is that, you know, when you get 80% funding for something that's going to have to be repaired eventually anyway, and you turn it around and say, I don't want it, I'll wait until I have to pay 100% of something. That makes no sense to me either. So, you know, I mean, getting 80% of something that's got to be fixed somewhere down the road, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after, 2026, I think it's important that we take advantage of those opportunities. And I think Ms. Sackrider has done a great job with the presentation. I think that's, you know, I mean, it's nice to save the taxpayers some money, but if you're paying 100% of something, I'd rather be paying the 20.
Sorry, Councillor Shaba, as you're the one that's passing the motion on this, do you agree with Councillor Owen's suggestion that we break the two items into two,
No.
or do you want to keep it?
I want to keep it, let's just proceed and try to get the money and figure out what we're going to do with the money and later on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay. So Councillor Shaba, you would like to keep it as one, and then you would like to add a line item to say, to report back with further details?
That's correct. Yes.
So I have an amended motion that is moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Eugene Ivanov. Be it resolved that report number 2021-CS-009 entitled Upcoming Grant Opportunities be received, that staff be directed to apply to the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund for community complex retrofits and the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative to enhance existing walking trails, and that staff be directed to report back with further details on the proposed submissions.
All in favor?
Yep.
All opposed? Motion passed. Item 6.6, report on tax and water bills delinquency. Don Studholme, interim CAO.
Yeah, this is a notice of motion that's come forward. So I've just gone and got you the numbers that you were looking for. So as you see, they're a little high in all our areas. You know, our biggest concern rate at the moment is tax arrears, which is 801. Out of that 801, 171 of these owe less than $20, but it still means you still have to chase them. Whether they owe you $20 or they owe you $10,000, it doesn't matter. You still got to chase them. And same with water arrears. You know, you're looking at 351 is in arrears. So the situation is that we really don't have a system in place for either one, tax arrears or the water. And we need to develop a system where we can go and chase people for their money. Probably the easiest process right now is the water. We used to have a process for water, but that's been cut out for a little over a year now. That we're not going to chase people that's outstanding in water. Personally, I don't understand that. I don't see that, but that's myself personally. And then your other ones is your tax arrears, which is a much more difficult process to try to collect. But it's just like anything else. The longer you let it continue, or the longer you let it proceed, well, it's just going to be more and more difficult to get those amounts that are in arrears. Because it's been proven that people that do go in arrears have a hard time getting out of arrears. And, you know, and so once again, that's not something that we're very strongly in support of. And it's something that we would like to do something about.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Do you know if this report includes people that have made arrangements to do post-dated checks throughout the year, and then they're all caught up? So when this report from December 31st, 2020, it wouldn't have included all those people that had paid by post-dated check month after month, because they would have been caught up at the end of 2020, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from council? Yes, Councillor Ivanov.
Yeah, through you to Mr. Studholme. Don, is there other communities, I don't know how they collect their taxes or how they collect their arrears. Is there a process that we're missing, that we're not doing, that other communities are doing?
Well, we're just missing it right now because we've just put everything on hold. And we just said, nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to bother these people. It's a difficult time financially, so on and so forth, which means that, are those points true? Yeah, points true to a certain aspect, but we also have to look at what is, we're here as a municipality, and we all talk about trying to be fair to our taxpayers, trying to be fair to everybody, trying to make sure that we're above the scale in regards to what we're hitting. And so whether it's tax arrears or whether it's water arrears, we need to start putting something forward in regards to moving this along. And I'm not saying we have to move along right this particular moment, but in another month to 2 months, our vaccines for the pandemic will be out there. Everybody should have got one if they wanted one. If they don't want one, once again, that's not my concern, and it's a matter where we have to go and make sure that moving ahead, we're trying to do this in the best way that we can for everybody in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Owens.
I totally agree. We need to be looking into this. This process needs to start as soon as possible to be fair to all ratepayers. Most pay their taxes on time. We all use the services to different extents, and it's a fair thing to do. So is there any way to change or add to the motion that some type of policy or policies be brought forward to be able to start this process, or to look into how to start this process?
And if you're directing that to me, I can answer that question, I guess.
Well, either you or Megan, or just the ball needs to start rolling on this one. That $3 million is a huge chunk of change. It's a scary chunk of change.
Yeah, and it certainly is. And, we have had it down over the years past that, but, the situation is we're back up where we were. And we need to get a process in place where we can work on that. So, if you give it to me for another 2 weeks or whatever, I'll talk to water, I'll talk to tax, and I'll come back to you guys with a solution in regards to what do we need to do to start moving this forward. Now, it's easier to collect arrears in water, because without water at your house, you're kind of tough out of luck. If you don't if you don't pay your taxes, you're not so much running the gamut at all. So, that's always a tougher one to get, but it still is something that we need to look at and figure out what's the best way of doing that for the people. Now, as you see, there's always 3 or 4 big ones that are out there that are outstanding, and we need to look at those and try to figure out, is there a way that we can deal with those people on a different system? And if we can't, then we got to look at how do we get them out of the system, and how do we get that property back into the tax brackets.
Absolutely. Councillor Ivanoff.
Yeah, from what I understand, when I talked to Ryan earlier last year, there were some people that have multiple properties. They were renting out and collecting the rent and still not paying taxes to the town of Kirkland. And those are the properties that really concern me, when somebody can actually make money off a property and not pay taxes to the town. That's a true concern. Those should be dealt with immediately. I mean, people that are struggling, you can kind of maybe give them a little bit of break, but you're right. Once you get into arrears, there's no possible way. If you can't afford $1,000 one year, you can't afford $2,000 a year after, and $3,000 a year after, and $4,000 a year later. So that that just sort of it snowballs, and it becomes impossible to pay. Anyway, I would hope we come up with some sort of a policy and a procedure to correct this situation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Owen.
I remember historically where tenants of 2 different properties were paying their rent directly to the town, because the property, my understanding was the properties were in arrears on their taxes. And I don't know all the details, but I know there was at least 2 properties where the renters were paying their rent to town hall. And maybe there's a way of doing that again, and that would address the situation that Councillor Ivanoff just brought up about people having multiple properties, renting them out and then not paying their taxes. It may be legal now because we're talking a few years ago, so it may be something worth looking into. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? Madam Clerk, who is the mover on this?
Mover is Casey Owens and seconded by Patrick Adams. Councillor Owens did reach out to me to give me some wording that he wanted to propose. I can read out that motion here. So moved.
Please do.
Casey Owens, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CAO-009M entitled Reporting on Tax and Water Bill Delinquency be received, and that staff be directed to develop and bring back policies on the collection of past due water accounts and past due tax accounts and the process of collection for these delinquent accounts to the June 15th regular meeting of council, and that the results of collection be included in key performance indicators as presented to council quarterly.
Excellent. All in favor?
Yep.
Passed unanimous. Item 6.7, OMNRF Hangar Rental Agreement. Will Fass, Director of Economic Development.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to go OMNRF either. It's natural resources for me. This is a housekeeping item, actually. We have an agreement on an annual basis to allow the natural resources to use the airport should there an emergency arise, particularly forest firefighting. The agreement is substantially the same as it was in the past. We updated some of the insurance terminology and clarified some of the responsibilities. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward, very similar to the agreements throughout the province.
Excellent, thank you. Any comments or questions? Good. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Rick Owens. Be it resolved that report number 2021-DAV-011 entitled OMNRF Hangar Rental Agreement be received, and that staff be directed to sign the attached OMNRF Hangar Rental Agreement with the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry.
All in favor? Passed unanimous, thank you. 6.8, request to purchase land, Heritage North. Again, Will Fass, Director of Economic Development.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. This is a request to purchase 400 Government Road West. It is coming forth from 2827269 Ontario Incorporated. Back in 2020, a service delivery review was completed on Heritage North, and council moved to divest itself of the operation in the facility. It was placed for sale, internet postings, etc., as well as signage. A number of expressions of interest were received, including from the above mentioned company. On the March 23rd Town Council meeting, council directed staff to provide notice of intent to sell and to engage legal counsel to review the purchase proposal. This has been done, and we have, as a result, brought forward this report with the recommendation that staff be directed to present an executing bylaw for the purchase and sale of 400 Government Road West to 2827269 Ontario Incorporated for a sale price of $799,000 plus legal costs.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, please read the motion.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that report number 2021-DEV-020 entitled Request to Purchase Land 400 Government Road West be received, and that staff be directed to present an executing bylaw for the purchase and sale of 400 Government Road West to 2827269 Ontario Inc. for a sale price of $799,000 plus legal costs.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Next item, 6.9, off-road vehicle bylaw update. Megan Elliott, clerk.
Thank you, Acting Mayor White, through you to council. If you remember in March, I believe it was, we were discussing updates to our all-terrain vehicle bylaw to include other definitions of off-road vehicles so that we can permit side-by-sides on the roads. The part that I was reporting back on was to see what the MTO was going to say about the portions of government road on either end. So as you can see in the attachment from the MTO contact, it is a little bit confusing at one part when he's explaining it, but overall, he's saying that they're not in support of adding that language in the bylaw. But I am recommending that we do update the bylaw to include the other definitions, but that we keep the language out from using those ends of government road, but people are still permitted to cross over.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? You may read the motion.
By Rick Owen, seconded by Eugene Ivanoff. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-dev-0. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong. Okay. Anyways, there's, sorry, 1 second here. Just want to make sure I get the right report number. So it will be memorandum number 2021-CLK-011M, entitled Off-Road Vehicle Bylaw Update be received, and that staff be directed to present the off-road vehicle bylaw to council at the next regular meeting for passing.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Consideration of notice of motion. That's Councillor Adams.
Yes, so at the regular meeting of council, April 20th, the proposed capital projects to be funded by the tax levy equaled $3,946,000. There are large budget pressures that we must consider and we need to look at all opportunities to offset costs from property owners, and one of these options is the introduction of the municipal accommodation tax. Many other municipalities have opted into applying the accommodation tax. This tax generates revenue from visitors. 50% of the funds would go to tourism, while the other 50% can be used at council's discretion. When you stay at a motel, hotel, bed and breakfast in the municipality with the municipal accommodation tax, you're paying for that city or town to promote its tourism, as well as reducing the tax burden on their residents to fund their programs and capital projects that normally would require an increase in property taxes. The income generated from the municipal accommodation tax could help fund the capital investments we need instead of increasing your municipal taxes. These funds could also be used for fixing the museum. As of last meeting, we received many letters talking about the importance of the museum and tourism to our municipality. Would you like your taxes to increase more, or would you like visitors to our area to pitch in for a piece of the pie, like we do when we travel to their regions? The accommodation tax is something that we need. So I know I'm open to changing the wording of this because I know how we were last at with the implementation of like just getting public feedback. And then COVID happened, and certainly a lot of hotels, lots of customers. When you drive past the hotels, there's vehicles in there every morning. So things are still moving ahead as the economy is, as we need to stay open for business while still being safe. So this is something that we need. So I'm open to changing the wording if needed with staff's help. I see Wolf is on. And just to get a report back as to where we're at with this and what we need to do to keep moving forward with the municipal accommodation tax.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Shaba. You had your hand up before I could even ask.
Oh, okay. You know, this is not a bad idea, but I mean, we're going through a pandemic that really unprecedented, and if there's any one single entity that has really suffered greatly under this, would be the hospitality industries. So I don't think it's the time to do this now. in my view, I think we should wait till the industry can really recover from this pandemic. Then it's something that we can look at in future. But I don't really think that this is timely at this particular time, because all those, I mean, yes, you do look at those hotels. I mean, I live in Chapious. Many times, you see the parking lots, empty, nobody there. Few times, well, things are picking up, but not as much as they would like it to be. So I'm really very much not in favor of this at this particular moment because of the timing. Yeah, maybe later on down the road, 3 or 4 months, when things will begin to pick up, it is an interesting topic to revisit. So that's what I would like to see. Thank you very much.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Ivanov?
I also agree that it's a great idea, that it should be implemented at some time in the future. I'm a little reluctant right now because I think the hotels are still suffering. I know the one that's down by Tim Hortons East there, sometimes you don't see anybody in the parking lot. Comfort Inn looks pretty empty. I would think, I think we should be looking at it, but I think it's just a little premature. Thank you.
Personally, I am 100% in favor of the way the motion is written, because Councillor Adams is looking for input from staff of where we stand. It's not to necessarily move forward at this junction, but it's just something that needs to be investigated at this time. 110%, I'm behind the mat tax. I too would not have brought it back. However, there is no guarantee how long this pandemic will last. And as we've seen, construction is very rarely ended in any restrictions. There's always essential construction, and there's always people coming into town using our infrastructure. I would like to see this move forward, at least in the way that it is written, because it's an investigation by staff. It is not to implement tomorrow, it's to investigate. That's my opinion on it. Any more comments or questions? Councillor, Wilfred Haas first, please.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I'm just looking for some clarity. Both Councillor Shaba and Ivanov had addressed one point. Okay, first, it is for implementation. Does council seek further consultations with the industry, with the public? Second question is, as the other councillors pointed out, the preferred timelines. As council as a whole have any idea of when it would like to see it going in? I agree that at this point it's very difficult to say that, but just as a thumbnail guide kind of thing, are we looking for 2022? My suggestions would be, within that context, there's a couple of things that we really could do. One is take a look at what the bureaucratic side of this whole equation looks like, the administration. What will need to be done within Treasury to set up, to collect, and also for us to quantify the rooms that are out there. We always mention the 3 hotels, but there is the Prospectors Inn, there is at, I assume at the old DVA where Kirkland Lake Gold is, and to get a proper picture of what's there, what's required within the administration. Another one that came forward when the item was discussed, especially from the industry, was show us a plan. What are you going to do with the money? And would suggest perhaps we start putting some thought into that. Are we looking at funding, I don't know, for example, a week-long Canada Day thing to bring people here in a quiet time, or something in the winter? But that we begin those kind of aspects of the consultation process as well. The other one is, okay, what are going to be the effects? I do believe that the hotels voluntarily have been giving money to the snowmobile club, kind of an informal mat tax. How do we accommodate that? How do we work with it? Just so council knows if there is anything like that. And I think, let's put a snapshot forward of what is a vacancy rate when we start, so we have something to measure against when we're going further down the path, say in 3 years or something like that. So we can start putting together some aspects of how do we want to approach it? What are the hot items that we have to address? And if that is done between now and January, without the pressure of trying to actually implement it, it may be a better product at the end of the day. That's just a commentary.
Excellent. The good news is because it was introduced to municipalities back in 2017, a letter was sent out to all municipalities across Ontario about this new MAT tax legislation. At least we don't have to blaze a trail. There is many municipalities that we can ask their their Treasury Department on what is needed. So thank goodness for that. It also means that the larger corporations that own the local businesses already have computer systems in place that can ease the burden on them. So there's a lot of positives here. Councillor Adams, go ahead.
Yeah, burden placed on the hotels with the implementation of this during the pandemic, as I'm not too sure which, as people still continue to go. There's no hotel loses businesses, loses customers, or loses any type of business at all because of this combination tax coming in. So it would actually be no burden at all, even if it were to come in. Because what happens when the fourth wave of the pandemic comes, and the fifth wave, and all the other municipalities continue to make money off the accommodation tax? What are we going to wait for?
Councillor Owen?
Yes, I often drive by all three of the motels, and yes, I would say the one in the East End is suffering, but I think that's more through competition than any other reason. I noticed that the two in the West End are often have their parking lots filled with different contractors. Yes, I have seen the times when there hasn't been a lot there, but the majority of times I go by there, you have to go by in the evenings because contractors leave early in the morning to go to work to really see what business they're doing. And to me, it seems like they are more than surviving based on my unscientific observations. Considering the financial crunch that we are in, the number of projects, everybody's crying, save the museum. Well, here's a perfect source of funding that could help that out along the way. I think that we should be looking at implementing this in the fall. COVID's unpredictable, and I'm hopeful that by the end of the summer that most aspects of life will have returned to normal, but none of us can say. And delaying it because something might happen is only costing us money. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Hassett actually asked for more direction, whether council wanted more public consultations and an implementation date of 2022. Councillor Adams, are you comfortable changing your motion to include any or all of the above?
Sorry, Acting Mayor.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Megan.
I know we've been discussing it, but I just want to back up a moment. For consideration of notice of motion, we do need to ask if there's a seconder before we were supposed to do anything. So at this time, I do just want to make sure from the motion as is being presented, is there a seconder on that?
So Councillor Owen.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to.
Sorry for that error. Thank you.
And then from there, if Councillor Adams wishes to change any language, we can amend that.
We can change to 2022. I don't want to see this thing shot down because I picked the wrong date, but if that's what staff would like and other members of council, I'm in for that. So yeah, 2022, and as a date. Anything else needed to be changed?
So sorry, in the motion, I just don't know where that would plug in. Like I was thinking, so right now it reads as, be it resolved that staff be directed to continue the process of implementing the municipal accommodation tax, and that a report is brought back at the next regular meeting of council providing a timeline on progress. So I didn't know if you wanted to just say staff be directed to continue the process of looking into implementing, and then at that time when the staff report comes, we could talk about timelines.
Sounds good.
Okay. Would you like to read the motion again, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that staff be directed to continue the process of looking into implementing the municipal accommodation tax, and that a report is brought back at the next regular meeting of council providing a timeline on progress.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Introduction, reading, and consideration of bylaws.
Okay, we have 3 bylaws here this evening. I believe the first 2 might have discussion, so I'll just pause in between it. So the first one is for the zoning bylaw. As Ms. McNaughton has noted, there has been the updates included from the public meeting. So moved by Casey Owens, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-032, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Kirkland Lake zoning bylaw.
Any comments or questions on the updates from the zoning bylaw? None noted. All in favor? Passed unanimous.
The second bylaw is an amendment to the parking bylaw to include the crosswalk, as we discussed maybe a month or so ago. Ms. McNaughton, is there anything you want to note to council at this point?
Sure, thank you. To you, your worship, through to council, there is an enhanced advertising campaign that is going to go along with the highway speed change, or that road speed change, and the intent is to have it actually changed come early June. So the intent is to have that advertising campaign over the next month. And then there was also just a note about the accessible space, that it was removed. I know there was a discussion at the February 20th meeting on this. It was removed because it was identified as not actually meeting the standards of an accessible space at this time. So if we're looking at adding one to that area, it can be done upon the full review at a later date this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Owens.
In regards to the crosswalks, I noticed like the new automatic crosswalks up and running, but now part of that sidewalk is all gone. Is that coming back in, or are we defining the purpose now they're going to have to cross Churchill to keep on walking on the sidewalk? I don't know if you can answer that or not.
So through you, your worship, to council, I do believe the Public Works Department is working on fixing that sidewalk on Churchill so that the students can walk along the same side of where Assumption School is and then approach the crosswalk. So that is identified as a route that they'll be taking with the trackless in the winter for clearing. So they just needed to fix up the sidewalk.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Owen.
Yes, through you, your worship, to Ms. McNaughton. If you use the word "I believe," if you find out that they in fact are not going to repair that sidewalk, could you please report back to councils, because it's kind of important that the kids don't have to cross the road at the time. Thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so it is moved by Eugene Ivanoff, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that the bylaw be read a first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-033, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 15017, for the regulation of parking for the town of Kirkland Lake.
All in favor? Passed unanimous.
And the last bylaw is to execute this Heritage North, moved by Rick Owen, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be ready first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-034, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute documents related to the sale of property located at 400 Government Road West to 2827269 Ontario, Inc.
All in favor? Councillor Adam, Councillor Ivanov, you cannot vote on this item. All in favor? Passed unanimous. That's okay. Moving on. Questions from council to staff? There was none noted. Noticed motions? None noted. Councilors' reports. Councillor Owen.
Yeah, I have a number of things that I want to mention. I want to start by extending my condolences to our employee, Kevin Conley, in the roads department. His mother passed away yesterday after a short illness, and I just want to let him know that my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family at this time. Also, recently, the family of Eric Baldwin organized the cleanup on Highway 66 by Gull Lake. Him and they got other friends and their families out there cleaning up the sides of the highway, which is quite interesting because I recently used my free tipping fee pass, and I was thinking as I drove out that way that, boy, there was a lot of garbage, and there was. This is a benefit to the whole town because it's an added layer of protection to our water supply there. I remember many, many years ago, Councillor Ivanov and some of his scuba diving buddies got permission to go into the lake, and they pulled out everything from shopping carts to car parts to all sorts of things that are toxic in the water. So I just wanted to commend the Bowden family for the work that they did and the other volunteers that helped them out. And hopefully they'll make an annual event of it. I don't normally comment on things that are in social media, but recently there was some very, very inaccurate information attributed to me. And I don't feel that I should just ignore it. The person who posted the information said that CBC journalist Eric White had quoted me as saying that the cost of the repair of the museum roof was $1.4 million. Just to make it perfectly clear, I did not say that. And to make it even clearer, the respected journalist from CBC did not say that in his story. His story was very accurate. It gave the history of the costing, which the original costing was 1.4 for all the repairs. He gave an account of the 200,000 plus that the town has already spent on the repairs. And yes, he did quote me, and he quoted me accurately, and it had nothing to do with the cost of the roof. I never mentioned a figure. And this is one thing that I'd like to remind people when they're on social media. While some of the sites may appear to be news sites, They are not operated by journalists. They have no code of conduct. They have no professional ethics, and they do no fact checking. So I just like to remind people to be very careful of the source of the information that they're reading. Now, as per the museum, I'm not sure that sword rattling and getting people riled up is helping the situation. We have difficult decisions to make, and council will make them after we've examined all our options, all our facts, and all our sources of funding. The only decision the council has made to date at the museum to continue operating in its present form is not sustainable. We have not gone any further than that. And hopefully that will clear up any further misinformation that's out there. Thank you.
Any further reports from council members? Thank you. Item number 12, additional. Sorry.
Just a quick
Sorry,
one.
Keith.
I got to
Councilor
work,
Owens.
I got to work with this as a university student in my years in university, I guess. And I got this in the mail today, and I got very, very excited. It's the census form or whatever. I know it made me sound like a geek or whatever, but you know what? It is the law. It needs to be filled out by everybody. So I'm just reminding the 30 or so people that are out on YouTube watching us right now, maybe spread the word. This needs to be filled out. I was kind of disappointed I only got the short form. It only took me about 3 minutes to fill out. I was really hoping for the long form because there's a lot of stuff in there. So yeah, this needs to be filled out. Do your part. And it will help the municipality in the long run. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, I agree with that as well. Item number 12, additional information. 12.1, strengthening accountability for municipal council members. Does anybody want to speak to this one?
Acting Mayor White, can we just pass a motion to receive for 11.1?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that the verbal updates from members of council be received.
All in favor? Passed. Thank you for keeping me on track, Madam Clerk.
Okay, 12.1, I can speak to that if you'd like, Acting Mayor.
Thank you.
So we did receive correspondence. I'm just going to pull it up here. From the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And so there is going to be a telephone session on June 10th, 2021 at 10 a.m. to discuss how to strengthen accountability for municipal council members. And in the correspondence, it notes that they would like to know which member of council to register by Thursday, May 6th. So currently I have just a motion to receive presented, but would like some direction on a member of council to be appointed if you wish to participate.
And who's the mover on this motion?
I have it moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Casey Owens.
Councillor Adams, do you have, or well, actually I can open up to the entire floor first. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Councillor Owen?
Yes, I would like Councillor and Acting Mayor Stacey White to represent council on that call, if she can do it with her work commitment.
Thank you for that endorsement, Councillor Owen. Actually, the month of June is Patrick Adams month. So I'm not opposed to doing it, but any further comments or questions?
I wasn't suggesting that you were acting mayor then.
Oh, no.
I just thought that you would be the right person to represent council at that forum, because you are well-spoken and you do your research, and I just think you would represent council well at that.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions? Everybody's screen is frozen for me.
Casey?
Counselor Adams?
Yeah, I will motion to have it worded that you attend if you would like, if you're able to. I'm in favor of that as well.
Absolutely, thank you. Now, Lad, can you hear me? Because it appears
Oh, yeah,
that,
I can hear you. I
hey,
said
is your hand up?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You want me to
Sorry,
hand it up?
everybody's frozen right now.
No, I'm in favor of it. If you have the time to do it, no problem at all.
Absolutely, it would be my pleasure. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you read the motion?
Moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Casey Owens, be it resolved that the invitation to participate in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing session be received, and that staff be directed to register Councillor White to attend the session on June 10th, 2021.
All in favor? Passed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I did account for you, acting mayor, and it was unanimous.
Thank you. It would Chappie use internet. Sorry, folks. Item number 12.2, National Action Plan for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. If you don't mind, can I speak to this one, Madam Clerk?
Certainly.
So this was a motion that I brought forth and Rick seconded quite a while ago, and we did get a response a couple of days ago. And I just want to comment that by forwarding motions such as this to lobby higher levels of government, we're actually bringing Kirkland Lake into the broader conversations facing Ontario, and we're making it known that Kirkland Lake still is here and we still exist and we still want to be part of the conversation. So I certainly appreciate the assistance of the clerk with my motion at the time, and Rick, and the fact that we got a letter is really impressive. So I hope in the future fellow council members will continue to lobby higher levels of government on the behalf of not just our community, but people that may not have a voice either. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Just didn't know if you wanted to ask any questions before the motion. Or?
Anybody have any comments or questions?
No, not me.
Okay. Moved by Rick Owen, seconded by Eugene Ivanoff, be it resolved that the correspondence from the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Secretariat be received.
All in favor? Everybody's back. Yay, unanimous. Thank you. And at this time, we'll move into closed session. Madam Clerk.
By Lad Shaba, seconded by Eugene Ivanoff, be it resolved that council move into a closed session pursuant to section 239(2) for 2 items relating to personal matters about identifiable individuals, 1 item regarding land disposition, and pursuant to section 239(3)(b) for 1 item about an ongoing ombudsman investigation.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, matters from closed session. None noted. Item 15, confirmation bylaw.
Moved by Eugene Ivanoff, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-035, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held May 4th, 2021.
All in favor? So moved, unanimous. Item number 16, adjournment.
Owen, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that council adjourn the May 4th, 2021 regular meeting of council.
All in favor? So moved, unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great night.